Hello, everyone. Welcome to LabOPEX Live. We have a very special episode, and I'm sure you are all excited, looking forward to this exciting episode where we're having medical lab professionals stepping up and stepping out. And so we are rounding out the first season of LabOPEX Live. We started on the week of April, which was Medical Lab Professional Week. And we've been going strong ever since. And we wanted to have most of our lab professionals who were part of the first season to come back together. So for those who haven't had a chance to listening live, we're going to highlight some of the things that we've spoken about over the period, and you'll get a chance to probably ask some questions. We won't have like a full episode from each individuals, but we'll have some highlights. So I'm so happy. I'm going to welcome each of our guests, and we'll have some more coming on later on. So Nancy, welcome.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here with everybody. Lona, you know how much of a fan I am of what you're doing for laboratory professionals and the field as a whole. So I want to congratulate you on your first season, and I am happy to be here and participate with everyone.
Thanks so much, Nancy, being really dedicated, and we'll talk to Nancy again a little bit and highlight her topic. Dr. Rhodey, welcome.
Hi, everyone. Lona, I would also like to echo what Nancy said. I'm sure everybody here tonight and everyone listening live would also like to congratulate you on providing a voice, a platform, and a very easy way for people around the world to recognize who we are. So I'm very excited to be here, and I look forward to sharing a few comments when it's my turn.
Yeah, and I'm so excited that I can join together with these amazing voices. So we have similar passions, and we're using this great opportunity. And Letitia doing some great work as a researcher.
Thank you, Lorna, and thank you, everyone. I am really humbled to be sharing the screen with all of you because you all are amazing, and especially for all the hard work you do. And I'm really excited to be participating in this conversation. So thank you for having me.
Thanks so much, Letitia. Letitia is doing a lot of work in research on in the with rural labs and making a big impact. And Stephanie, I work with Stephanie on our Elaborate Topics podcast and other initiatives. And Stephanie, introduce yourself.
Well, hi, everybody. Again, I'm Stephanie Whitehead. I like to say, as my co-host and my virtual friend, I'm so proud of Lona and her first season of the show. She is just a pathfinder. She is just a way maker and a portal for all of us beautiful laboratory people to come together and share our passion and continue to be advocates for our profession. So I'm so proud of the work that she's been able to do in virtually connecting all of us so we can continue to spread the word about the important work that we do. So thank you, Lona. Thank you for letting me be a part of it.
So happy to partner with Stephanie. Stephanie is awesome. Like, of course, she's a superstar, as we all know, for the lab. She's representing us all over in airports, so I'm proud and honored to be working with Stephanie. Angie Sedonia. Angie is another trailblazer. She has a huge leadership group on Facebook. She's a major mentor. Hey, Angie.
Hey, Lona. I am definitely humbled to be here amongst such a great group of leaders here. I was definitely excited that you reached out to me. I hope that I have some things to offer to your viewers as far as my topic this season about staffing and what's the best tactics to tackle getting the best workforce that you can get in the lab. So again, super excited to be here, and thank you so much for reaching out to me to be a part of it.
Thanks, Angie. And Anthony. I kind of have a heart for Anthony. Anthony is such an advocate for just so much when it comes to healthcare in general. As a kidney recipient, he's an advocate for other kidney recipients. And also he shows so much passion for the lab because he made that connection for us, how the things that we do to help patients. And a lot of patients don't see that connection. And Anthony always say the lab saved his life. So he gave so much and is still giving so much to the lab as a patient advocate. So welcome, Anthony. And he's doing so many other things.
Thank you, Lona. I appreciate it. It is a very great honor and privilege for me to be here. And I am very excited to be here tonight. And I appreciate the invite.
Thanks, Anthony. And Andre, I can look to Andre like a mentor. Andre is with LTS, and he's so much into performance and process improvement, and I signed up for one of his courses when it comes to lab process improvement. So Andre, introduce yourself. Welcome.
Thank you, Lona. I shout out to you. I agree with what all the people on the panel says. Thank you for enhancing lab medicine and providing us with this platform, and the work that you do. It's really an honor and a privilege to be part of this discussion tonight. So thank you very much. And to all people that's joining us tonight, it's awesome to be part of this group. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Andre. And Rollis, my friend. Rollis is another mentor of mine. And Rollis has such an innovative way of looking at things. And I thought he would be so valuable to us. He does recruiting in a different way, and he can help us with ideas to bring visibility. So welcome, Rollis. You're muted, Rollis.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so glad you invited me. Although I'm not a lab professional, hopefully I can add some value. And I would like to give you a congratulatory clap, if you don't mind. Can I do that?
Yes, Rollis.
This is for a great, great season. You're awesome. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Rollis. Okay. So we're going to start, and we're going to give the audience some highlights of the season for people who missed it, didn't get a chance. And right now we have more guests that's going to be on the show that's right now waiting in the audience to come on. We have a maximum of 10 people on at a time, and we'll be letting others on soon, and we're going to do some musical chairs. But while we are here, we're going to start with Dr. Rodney Rhodey. So it's like me first. So when Dr. Rodney came on, we spoke a lot about visibility, and the topic was medical lab professional and public health professional visible heroes during the pandemic. And Dr. Rodney did so much work nationally, and he was on television, he was on radio, he was on podcasts, he was writing articles, he was everywhere. Every time you want to listen to something about COVID and testing, he was there. And we had him on the show. And just one thing I want to highlight for Dr. Rodney to talk about is, why is advocacy and visibility so important, especially during this time of the pandemic?
Yeah, thanks, Lona. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to your audience. Again, thank you everyone out there who is watching live and who may watch later. A big thank you to you. It has been quite a run here for the past 18 months. And one of the things, just before we talk about that visibility, is you're doing the work every day in whatever avenue or line of work you're doing that most people don't realize and understand, that is providing that life-saving information for all patient care and quality health care in whatever role you're in. You're part of that. So thank you for that work. we know that you've been doing it pre-pandemic. And I can't wait to hear what Angie talks about staffing. It's something that's near and dear to my heart as I listen to my alumni that are very challenged right now in hiring. So thank you all for all that work. It is so critical, as each of you know. I'm preaching to the choir, but want to reach out there and reach any other people that are listening about visibility of this profession. I often like to use the phrase, we're saving lives in the shadows of healthcare. And I want us to break out of those shadows. We got to get out of those shadows and get into the visible lanes of mainstream media as experts in what we do. And I would like to issue a challenge to our professional members around the country and around the world that anyone can do this in your own comfort zone. As Lona mentioned, I mean, I don't know if we're all ready for being a podcast star like Lona and Stephanie, but you might be, right? I mean, the savvy workforce that kind of gets involved in digital media and virtual lanes are amazing. And I'm way behind you on this. So you can do these things, writing, speaking. One of the things that I often try to talk to my students about and my alumni about is it's something that you can do on purpose, right? So if you work at a university or you work in a hospital or you work in industry, speak to your media team, to your marketing teams about how you can be an expert. You are available to do an interview. You're willing to write a short article about some particular topic that you're an expert in. We can all take part in this visibility, and it's so critical. As most of you know, I'm passionate about this. I speak about it all the time, but you guys, you know, we are doing things. We're doing about 13 billion tests annually in this country. What did we do in the past year and a half? Over 500 million. We're at about a 550 billion COVID tests on top of everything else you do. So I know you're tired, and I know you need help. I just graduated 20 seniors 2 weeks ago from Texas State. So trying to get Texas some help and some other places. But you're doing those things, and those 13 billion tests drive 2/3 of all medical decisions from cradle to grave. Share those types of facts. It can be short and sweet. It can be in articles. It can be in radio. It can be in anything you want to do. But you can find your lane and do this. If you have any questions or you need any advice, I am more than happy to talk with you offline, email, Twitter, LinkedIn, wherever you're at. Not TikTok. Dr. Rhodey hasn't got on TikTok yet. I mean, Letitia might be over there partying on TikTok. I don't really have the moves for the TikTok crowd, but maybe one of these days. So I'll stop there. And I just, again, want to thank each and every one of you for what you do. You are so valued, even though you sometimes don't get the thanks you deserve. But thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thanks, Lona.
Thanks so much, Dr. Rhodey. Maybe Rollis is going to give an applause. Now I'm voting Rollis. Thank you, medical lab professionals. Thank you. Thanks, Dr. Rhodey. I am going to go to Anthony. So Anthony spoke about how a kidney transplant recipient sees the medical lab as part of a care team. And we really, really appreciate Anthony for all the work that he's doing. He has spoken at ASCP. He's been advocating for the lab, and he's been advocating for kidney patients. He's a kidney transplant coach. He has a podcast. He has, I say it's a newsletter, it's a blog, or he'll probably explain that, but he's doing just so much for patients and for just the appreciation that he has. And so we had him on, and Anthony, we just want to highlight something that you spoke about that day, and just want to know, how do you see the lab as part of the care team? And how did the lab save your life?
Well, I thank you for that question, Lona. And I can tell you, without the laboratories, without y'all here, without those of you that are here on the show, I would not be possible. What you see here would not be possible. I would have not been diagnosed with kidney disease and had the opportunity to get treatment so I could live a more happy and fulfilled life. The lab saved my life just in time too. For I was told that had I not went in when I did, I would have probably my parents would have probably found me over the weekend and would have passed away in my sleep. But because I went in, got checked out, they sent my blood work off. They were able to take it to the laboratories, and then the labs were able to come back and they showed me where I was at. I am here, and I'm so grateful and honored to be a part of your show and to be with all these wonderful people that I consider heroes. And I think about even when not only kidney disease, but even with COVID, when I had COVID, it's because of those people. It's because of laboratories. I remember seeing the individual that was actually taking my COVID test come out. And I just felt such an emotion because they're doing their part to save our lives, the patients' lives, us, mine. And without y'all, I would not be possible. I would not be here. And I will say that I think it's very, very well needed that those that are patients need to understand what the laboratories really do, more than just being like Dr. Rodney said, more than just being in the shadows or breaking out. Need to break out of that to showcase what y'all do. It's such a unique and very important part. Without y'all, I wouldn't be here. The Kidney Trails blog that I have would not be here. The Kidney Trails Press that I have would not be here. The KT Broadcasting Network, any of that stuff would not be possible. But because of you and what each and one of y'all did, and anybody that's in the pathology field, your audience, you have saved lives. Y'all saved my life, and I'm grateful to give back in any way that I can. So I'm very grateful for that. And I think it's very important that people understand what exactly laboratories do for those that, we may not know. I didn't look sick, but I found out I was. And now because of that, it even interplayed into my transplant. The laboratories had to be in that to make sure my match was right on. And my match was near perfect. So I'm very grateful for that and very grateful for the opportunity.
Thanks so much, Anthony. Anthony is just one of those souls that is just, a lot of people they take so much for granted, and Anthony's not like that. Anthony is at every live show, every LabOPEX live. He is there like one of the first person in the audience saying, and this is Anthony, I'm here. And he's doing so much, working with ACP, doing, just so much giving back. And not only to us, but he's helping other kidney transplant patient, other kidney disease patient. He's doing so much in that realm. And we appreciate you so much, Anthony. Okay, the chat is going crazy. I hope we don't miss some of the, so Aaron is saying hello, everyone. Looking good. Stephanie representing ACP Council of Lab Council. Oh, yes. Taiwana. Kudos, Lona, for leveraging this platform to bring exposure to the medical lab profession. I wish Taiwana, try to get on soon because I need you besides Stephanie. If you get a spot to get, we'll see. Okay. And Rollis is here commenting. Let's see, Rollis. Great to be here. I'm excited to attend this live. Sean is pumped. Sean, get in line. Christine, hi everyone, love this. And Anthony's commenting, it's great to be here. Dr. Stephanie Stalos, I will join you in the clapping. She was clapping. And there are more and more and more, but we'll wait. Okay, let's see where we are to get this off. So if we, I think Dana is getting ready to join. She could join because Dr. Rodney. Okay, let's go to Nancy.
Hello, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. Lona, again, congratulations. And our topic was process improvement, right? Process and performance
Andre.
improvement.
So it's going to be Nancy and Andre House.
Yes.
Andre, excuse me, I'm horrible. Pronounce your name, Andre.
Okay, it's Goos, like Mexico, like the X in you say, so it's Goos.
Goos, okay. Andre and Nancy spoke about empowering medical lab professionals with process improvement tools. And a lot of times we get so chaotic with so much that we're doing. It gets really busy. You know, we're just like pulling our hair out. And if we could just utilize some of these process improvement tools, it would help to bring flow, efficiency. It probably won't solve all of our problems. I think Andre believe it will solve all of our problems. It probably will if you think about it in a bigger, holistic way. When I talk about lab operational excellence, when you're not just looking at process improvement, when you're looking at performance improvement, you're looking at the culture, you're looking at leadership, you're looking at business cases and everything. So, you know, it's important to consider, especially now with so much chaos. So for Andre and Nancy, I'm going to ask you to give us a few reasons why medical lab professionals would benefit from learning different performance improvement tools at this time.
Yes, so I think it's really important. And I remember back when we were live with this topic, we received a lot of questions and a lot of engagement because it is so important for laboratory professionals to become familiar with these tools. You know, sometimes I feel like we're taking care of the day-to-day, and I mean, in the light of COVID, you know, we're so busy that we might not think about these things. And so it's important that we learn about these tools out there that can help us solve different problems that we see in the laboratory every day. And so everything goes back to becoming more efficient in the laboratory so that we can take care of patients. So at the end of the day, performance improvement, process improvement is about improving the quality of care that we deliver for patients. And so I like what Andre was saying when we were live about all these different tools that are out there. It's kind of like a recipe, right, Andre? You were mentioning having different tools and having a recipe for how to utilize them.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I fully agree. And as you know, the president of the Royal College of Pathologists said that diagnostic labs is the secret science that saves lives. So we need lab medicine, and lab medicine must stay relevant. And we know that healthcare is changing at a rapid speed. And also it was Jack Wells, former CEO of General Electric, who said, if the rate of change on the outside exceeds the rate of change on the inside, the end is near. And to ensure the future lab, to ensure the future relevance of the lab of today, labs need to identify and address their problems, pain points, and opportunities. And the need to move swiftly to stay ahead of change and to survive while you maintain quality is more important than ever. And continuous improvement is also part of the 12 quality system essentials. So labs have no choice as to invest in performance improvement tools, as well as the methodologies in how to use and apply it. And as you said, Lona and Nancy, you know, holistically, I believe in the big picture. It's not only like using the tool, it's applying the tool in a bigger scheme of things. So this will ensure the future relevance of labs and help them to provide much more value to the healthcare system than just the test result. So continuous change is required, and this will need the change of behavior. And to change your behavior, you need to rewire your thinking. So yeah, that is, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I know, you know, with performance improvement, it is such a huge field that this is kind of just tip, just a little taste on
the
your
surface, really.
yeah.
Yes.
But it can involve any aspect from pre-analytical to post-analytical, from leadership to teamwork, team dynamic, workflow, almost everything. And that's why I focus my thing is lab operational excellence does not just have to do with process improvement, but has to do the people, the process, like Andre would say, people and process, people, process, and automation. How do you put them all together and your business case? So if anybody's interested in that topic, you can always contact Nancy or Andre or myself. But that's kind of another tool in your toolbox with the challenges that we have today. Thanks so much, Andre and Nancy. Hang on for a little bit until you think. Andre, if you have to click off, we'll totally understand. I don't know. Andre's coming in from South Africa, and you know what time it is there. So, if you have to click off, that's fine. If you want to hang up for a little bit more, that's okay also.
Okay. Thank you very much and good evening. I'll make space for somebody else. Thank you.
Thanks, Andre.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right. So I am going to jump to, I'm trying to get Taiwana on before I go to Stephanie. Okay, so let's go to Angie. And so Angie said down here, when we spoke, when Angie came on, and I think Angie is way down here, we were talking about strategies to building a successful lab team. And Angie has to be very efficient with her hiring process, her retention. She has some real great strategy, and that's so important, especially for Angie being in a rural lab. And whatever strategies she has is things that she can share with us, we can learn from, because we are all having similar challenges now. So Angie, could you tell us maybe three, however, I shouldn't give a number, but just give us some tactical methods on building a successful lab team.
Yeah, absolutely. So I definitely take strategic tactics in hiring lab personnel, and I found that it served me well. So it's things that I've taught the managers that have followed me. But I want to open up with a very important message, is that your employees are your greatest asset. Therefore, hiring is your most important job as a manager. So I just want to open up with that first. But basically, first things first, once you assess that you have an opening in the lab, you don't just hire for the exact same position that you had before automatically. Do a job analysis, make sure that it's the right duties, the right shift, the right hours. Evaluate to see how you can best serve your department. Pull your staff in, ask them what they need. Look at your productivity. Make sure that your job posting reflects what the actual needs are of the department. Don't just turn around and post a position exactly as the person exited before that. Also get creative. Start utilizing lab assistants to perform testing. We have such a constraints put on us right now with our lack of staffing. One of the things that we've done is we implemented lab assistants. So our lab assistants, and we're picky and choosy, and we definitely have restrictions on what they can do. But our lab assistants can perform up to moderate complex testing in the lab with restrictions. It also creates a career ladder for them, which is great for employee satisfaction. So I just encourage you to think outside the box. We just can't keep doing things the same way we've been doing them. We have to change with the times. Also ensure that you have a pipeline. Partnerships with schools are huge. Make sure you have students doing clinical rotations. Know your community colleges, know your universities, know who's in charge of those programs. If you don't know who the director is of your local MLT program or your MLS program, then you need to find out and make that connection. Next thing is, as far as interviewing, before you develop your questions, ensure that your questions have meaning. Don't just ask those questions that are just blanket questions that you can Google on the internet. Your questions should reflect the attributes that you're looking for in a candidate. For example, passion, teamwork, commitment, accountability, customer service, whatever you're looking for. What you're looking for in an MLS may not be the same thing you're looking in for a phlebotomist, but make sure that they reflect those. You may want to include your hospital's core values and focus some questions around the core values, but be strategic. Every question should have meaning, and you should know what you're looking for in that answer. You shouldn't just be asking questions just to ask questions. Another tactic that I use is doing group interviews. So again, it's strategic. Select the people to participate in the group interview with you very carefully. Don't just automatically pick your lead techs or your managers or your supervisors. If the lead tech has a crappy work ethic and they were gifted to you because you're a new manager and you're given all these lead techs, but maybe they have a crappy work ethic or a crappy attitude. So people tend to favor candidates that are like themselves. Remember that when you're choosing people in group interviews. So you could be setting yourself up for failure. So, and those are the fundamentals of how you begin changing a culture in the lab. You have to start with knowing what you want in a candidate and making sure that you set up interviews on how to get that out of them to begin hiring the highest quality candidates. So that's my summary 101.
Thanks so much, Angie. Awesome. And follow Angie. And she also has a leadership Facebook group, really good quality group that you can get a lot of great resources. They really manage that group very well. You're not going to get a lot of what that juice called, Stephanie?
Pickle juice. Pickle juice.
You won't get a lot of that pickle juice in that Facebook group that Angie manages.
Yeah, no. I'm fortunate to have some great moderators, and we really stay on top of that group. It's not a garbage group. We screen people before they get in, and it is highly monitored to make sure we keep it professional and relevant.
Thanks so much. So connect with Angie. Let's see in the chat. I'm going to probably grab some people who are Jessica Keys. I'm excited to be able to watch this event. Lab professionals are amazing. Thank you all. Erin already talking about pickle juice before we even got there. Hashtag pickle juice, Stephanie.
It's a revolution. It's a movement.
Keeping it alive. Exactly.
It's a movement.
And Dr. Salas was saying, what does pickle juice mean? Maybe Stephanie will talk about it when I grab her. And Justin is saying, ooh. Okay, so between Rollis and Letitia, there's some connection to what Christina just said. So I think I'm going to jump. No, I'm going to go to Letitia. It's like Rollis has a general solution. So I'm going to jump to Letitia. So when Letitia came on the show, she was talking about staffing in rural labs and the challenges and the risk because of the skilled staffing that, limited skilled staffing that's available. And so we discussed some of the risks, and she had some suggestion, and we want her to talk about some of those suggested solutions for managers with the issue of staffing in the rural labs. So there are limited skill staffing in those rural labs.
Sure, and I think I'm very glad it was a nice, great segue from the pickle juice conversation. So thank you very much. One of the things that I'm very passionate about is data. I find that a lot of rural and smaller hospitals that are out there get like their information and what they have to offer gets diluted out when they respond to surveys that are massive. And even if you look at the largest surveys for laboratory professionals, those numbers are small because there's fewer practicing laboratory professionals in rural areas. And so my biggest interest is in trying to go in there and talk to them to see what their strategies are. But in terms of training and additional skilled workers, one of the biggest concerns we have is that even during our conversation, Lona, it came out that maybe 7 or 8 laboratories out there are overlooked or overseen by an MLS ASCP certified person, and then all of the testing is done by other individuals, nursing, emergency personnel, or as Christina was mentioning, laboratory assistants. And so to me, that's just a matter of what was mentioned, pipeline, using the people that you have in the ways that are allowed. But then also, like what Christina said, is partnering with schools and trying to get these people the certifications that they need. So maybe if you have a laboratory assistant who starts working for you in the laboratory and they already have a bachelor's degree in science, but not an MLS, they can actually start training with you and then sit for an specialist like a hematology or a microbiology or a chemistry. And you can help them through that process. They can go back to school, take those classes, take that exam, and now be a lot more qualified than they were at the beginning. And they can now be doing a little bit of those higher complexity tests, which relieves some of that work from your very, very low levels of staffing. But then also, we have to look out to other technologies. I mean, this pandemic has taught me that online learning is a thing that is very revolutionary. And so that is something that we need to think about as an idea outside the box. How can we establish connections with those rural areas that have people who live there, who want to be a laboratory professional, but can't move to the big city because that's not where they live? And then finally, one thing that I thought we talked about was the opportunities for funding. So, and Dr. Rhodey mentioned that early, is about advocacy. Right now in Congress and all of our laboratory societies are supporting bills to increase funding for teaching and training of laboratory professionals. So if you haven't heard about that, you need to get plugged in with legislative agenda for a laboratory, because we are really looking for funds to train more individuals so that they can serve in those communities that really need it the most because of that lack of training opportunities. So those 3 things, if I had to say something about this topic, I definitely think that would be something we can talk with our laboratory professionals out there. So I think those are my little 2 cents on that.
Thanks so much, Leticia. Thanks for all the work you're doing, all the surveys, the data collection across the country, working with different lab managers to see what our challenges are and come up with solutions. Now I'm going to go to Raleigh. So Raleigh, although Raleigh has a very small niche, so Raleigh, as I say, is an innovator. And he is in recruitment, but he doesn't do it the regular way. He has a company that deals with recruitment, but he has a very innovative way of doing recruitment. And he's a very generous person. And so although his niche is not medical lab, his niche is, why is it that the nurses are always getting it and the doctors? Well, that's Raleigh's niche. But he's very generous and he wants to help us. He can still show us some of the tactics that he helped other health professionals to use. So we're going to have, let's see what, at the time when Raleigh was on, his topic was providing labs with the best visibility tools for your staffing need. So basically, I'm going to ask Wallace, what can hiring managers do to differentiate themselves and attract great candidates? Because that's one of our major challenges.
Well, first of all, I loved all the feedback you got from Angie and from Letitia. That was spectacular. I was just like clapping. I was like, wow, that's amazing. I love it. I wish there were more hiring managers that we were working with that did those things. So I think it's great. So a couple of things as far as like just initial visibility, I think everybody who's watching this will agree with me. And the reason why you watch this live stream is the most effective way we can communicate with somebody is using video. It's short of being there in person, right? Obviously, being there in person is better. But short of that, video is really the best way to communicate. And that's what people want. That's what people want this live stream. We strive and want connection. And what better way to do that than through video? So that's one of the things I can definitely suggest for any hiring manager who's looking to try and get those candidates in. Show up, show them who you are, just like you're doing right now. You're on video, you're making yourself visible. I think that's a great step. I know you're busy. I know you've got a lot of things going on. In fact, you're probably short staffed, which makes you even that much more busy. But trust me, the time and investment you put in that will be well worth it when you get the best talent. I know that when Letitia was talking about training opportunities, and Angie's touched on this as well, whenever you think about lateral moves, if someone's going to make a lateral move, there has to be a strategic reason why they would want to do that. So you've got to be able to communicate pretty quickly what's the strategic advantage of why you need to come to my organization versus where you're working at now? What's my employee value proposition? What am I offering you that's better than what you have? And it doesn't always have to be pay. It could be, like they said, training earlier. Training is great. If I'm an assistant and you want to train me how I can get certified to be a full on medical lab professional, that's great. That gives you a strategic advantage. If you've got a good training program, you want to mentor some people, because not all hiring managers are willing to do that right now. So I would say whatever your strategic advantage is, use it. If you're rural, hey, you want to be a bigger fish in a small pond, come over here. We're going to hear your suggestions. We're going to act on what you want. We're going to help train you and all that. If you're in a big urban facility that has like tons of people around you and everybody's trying to compete for the same people, what are some things you can offer them? Do you have career progression in your particular organization? Or the things that you can do there? Or maybe that you can give them a wider array of cases that they're not getting where they are. Maybe there's other types of labs that you can show them that maybe you're doing state-of-the-art work in a certain area of being a lab professional. But look at the landscape of what the other choices are. The best way I could really preach to you on this is think about it from the candidate standpoint and what their choices are. Whatever their choices are, that's how you want to present to them. You know what they're facing. You're in this business. You know what they're facing. You know what they're looking for. So play to that. And let's not fall back into the post and pray that we've been doing for years. That doesn't work anymore. Just posting a job and praying that the right candidate's going to show up is not going to work. Okay. So in this day and age, especially with the shortage you have, be more proactive. I don't want to talk myself into a hole here. I'll shut up, but hopefully that helped. And I really appreciate being on your show. I love the first season. I look forward to the second season, and you guys are all doing great work. Thank you for everything you do.
Thanks for your generosity, Wallace.
My pleasure.
Okay, so I am going to jump to Patty. So Patty, for a while on.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for including me in such an amazing group of professionals. I'm going to spring off of what Angela said. Our employees are our greatest assets. And so as leaders, I love hearing about the ways that we're hiring people. We're thinking out of the side of the box. We're making sure we're asking those important questions when we're interviewing. But let's also talk about retention. The ones that we have, to pay attention to and really nurture those people and develop those meaningful and enduring relationships, particularly during this really, really stressful time with COVID. And so, looking at the three things that come to my mind when it comes to really a stressful event is making sure that your team has that physical safety. So with COVID, we were all freaking out because it was a novel virus. Now we're getting, what is it, our third or fourth wave, and the whole Delta variant is even more virulent than what we had before. But making sure they understand that PPE, if they use it appropriately, use it consistently, that they are safe. So creating that that physical safety. Next comes that psychological safety, where they have an understanding that, I keep hearing, I didn't sign up for this. Well, I guess you kind of did. We are here as laboratory professionals because we want to provide care and identify and help diagnose and perform therapeutic interventions so that our patients become well. And so, no, we probably were not prepared for a pandemic, but let's talk about the things that we cannot control and the things that we can control. So what happens around us, of course, we keep hearing that. You can't always control what's going on around us, but we can control that reaction that we have and how we deal with things. And so that leads me to my third point, which is resiliency. So as leaders, how do we help our team members become more resilient? And the way that I've really approached this is developing those relationships. So, one of the last things that scientists want to talk about really is their feelings. But the more granular they become on describing how they're feeling and being able to connect with one another, connect with their leaders, and really then having all those three come together, their physical therapy, their psychological therapy, and that resiliency piece, brings them coming to work every day where they know that they're cared for. They know that their leadership wants to make sure that they are safe. And because they're developing those relationships with each other, they don't want to leave. And so, it goes beyond just, eating right, sleeping well, and getting your exercise. Those things that we can control, but also how do we develop those relationships, whether it's a potluck at work, whether it's, I just did a disc profile with my team so they figure out, oh, that's why we communicate so well, or maybe we have those challenges, but just taking the time that we don't have, but hopefully slowing people down so they understand that how we react with each other is very, very important.
Thanks so much, Patty. Because that a lot of times, yeah, a lot of times we, you said it right, as scientists don't want to talk about the feelings, and that's so important for us, especially during this stressful time. So important for us, especially as leaders who have to absorb so much to prepare ourselves mentally and emotionally to survive. And so I'm glad that you brought up all aspects. It's really a holistic way to deal with stress, resiliency, as you say. Thanks so much. I am going to go to some of the guests out, our audience, because I know we have a lot to talk about, but we've been kind of ignoring our audience. So let's see. And I think a lot of us here are engaging. Kristen is saying great group of leaders presenting and representing tonight. I think Taiwana is also engaging with the audience, which is great. I wasn't sure. Oh, maybe Taiwana was talking to us. Justin. Is that Justin behind there? Justin cut his hair off. I'm seeing somebody back there and I'm like, I don't know that person. So great to see all of my favorite LabOPEX in one place. And Aaron was talking about pickle juice at the time. Let's see. There's Yolanda. Hello. While I understand rural hospitals have issues with staffing, but there are also significant staffing shortages in large urban centers as well. And that's so true, especially now we're all feeling it. think we have a larger issue because well-trained staff have their choice of jobs throughout the urban market. Suppose they can go back and forth. What are some suggestions for retention? So Patty just brought that up, of staff outside of increasing salaries. Patty just addressed that, and I'm sure that Angela Robinson is going to talk a little bit about that also. And Angela is saying thanks to Raleigh. Okay, I know we have a lot more, but Stephanie is saying that feelings, what are those? Yeah, what are those? We're scientists, right? Okay, we have Justin adding. Justin, I was saying, who is that stranger that got the link? I say, I don't know that person. I'm not going to let them in.
Yeah, I had a lot more hair when we did our session back in June.
Stress. Okay, welcome, Justin. All right. So I think I'm going to jump to Taiwana, and I didn't want to do Stephanie until Taiwana gets here. We're kind of
we're a package.
Here, right?
We're a package deal. We're a package.
Teamwork. And we have our max, so you don't have to leave until we're done. You're okay. We lock the door. So we came on, I think we were the second episode where Taiwan and myself and Stephanie came on to talk about Elaborate Topics podcast. And we talk about Elaborate Topics bringing visibility to the medical lab profession. Mm-hmm. And of course, if you don't know about Elaborate Topics podcast, shame on you. You better know today. You better get on directimpactbroadcasting.com of any of your favorite platform. Now we're saying so often podcast platform. I know I probably have to give Angie the link. I see Angie looking at me like. So yes, and I know Angie will be happy to jump to listen. So we talked about the reason for the podcast, some of the benefits, and how we met. So I'm gonna jump to either Taiwan and Stephanie. Any of you could jump on and just let the audience know, why was it important to have a lab podcast?
Taiwan, you want to go?
Sure. So good evening. Thank you so much, Lona, for having me on the show, for this awesome opportunity to be here. I'm just super excited for you, for this platform. And so Elaborate Topics is a weekly podcast. It airs every Tuesday. So if you have not tuned in, we have over 60 episodes. We've been going on for over a year now. So every Tuesday, a new episode will release, giving you those practical tips that you can use both inside and outside of the laboratory. And the reason why this podcast was so important is because you have to meet laboratorians where they are. Right. And there are technical podcasts out there. There's podcasts around phlebotomy. There's all kind of podcasts. And that's awesome. The more that we can give information about the laboratory, the more we can give exposure to the laboratory, the more, as my speaking coach and mentor, Dr. Cheryl Wood says, come to the front of the room. As for some reason, we take great pride and pleasure about being those unseen heroes. Well, it's time for us to come to the front of the room. And Elaborate Topics is a platform in which we do just that, where we give that exposure to medical lab professionals and friends of the laboratory.
Mm-hmm. I echo exactly what Taiwana said. People are usually very surprised when we say this, but Taiwana, Lona, and I have never met in person. We have only connected virtually and on our platforms. But I think that is actually what is so inspiring about our story, is that you can start exactly where you are. You can start with exactly what you have. Exactly what you have is enough to connect and offer something to somebody else. This is no other time in the present for us to, be one, to us to connect, for us to collaborate, and for us to help each other, and especially the time that we're in. And so it's been such a pleasure over this past year and a half to work with Tawana, to learn from Lona, to learn from Tawana, to be inspired by such beautiful entrepreneurs, such passionate women, such intelligent laboratory professionals. It's motivated me in very many different areas. Even when I listen to certain episodes and I'm like, oh my gosh, people are going to listen on Spotify and Apple and everywhere and God knows where else. But, the biggest compliment that we get is that, we truly sound practical. We sound like three laboratorians who decided to push record on a conversation, and we had an actual conversation. And people can definitely relate as we speak. If it's not perfect, if we use too many times, if the sound quality is not exactly perfect, at least we're doing our part to reaching people. And I think people really have appreciated it. It was born out of the COVID pandemic, like so many other things, so many other great initiatives that were born out of this pandemic. But I'm excited to continue to work with these ladies. And thank you, Lona, for allowing us to use your portal and your platform as yet another place to share our story and to connect with our laboratory colleagues.
Thanks so much, Stephanie. And for my experience with elaborate topics, we talk about LinkedIn, or visibility, how important that is. And LinkedIn allowed me to find Tawana. So Tawana was showing up. She wasn't like on the scene. I saw this lady showing up every day. And I'm like, I have to reach out to her because apparently we have similar vision or similar passion or mission. And I just reach out to her to chat. We chat about, some of the things we were interested in doing. And then I think we talked maybe twice or so, but we kept connected. And then Tawana reached out to me with that idea. She and Stephanie both spoke about it, and she reached out to me. And of course, I was on board. And so, I was on LinkedIn doing videos, doing posts, and I thought that a podcast, well, of course, I was thinking about a podcast, and if it weren't for Tawana, that wouldn't be real, because Tawana had other podcasts before. She had a radio station, she had a podcast, and I listened to her podcast. She used to post it on LinkedIn. So I had that conversation that I'm thinking of a podcast. So she reached out to me and she said, look, I already have people together. She reached out to quite a few people and she's like, we can do this. And
yeah, don't get with Tawana unless you're ready to work. I actually reached out to Tawana to just be on her podcast. Now we got a whole new podcast. I just wanted to be on hers.
Because together we are better, and it's so much. It's better with friends. So I mean, together we can do more. As individuals, we can make small strides, but together we truly can do more. And I just knew that, you all are awesome ladies. I knew that we each had our different voices. Lona's very technical. Stephanie is she's practical, and she always gives great insight. And I just knew that our energy and synergy together will be awesome. And so if people are thinking about starting a podcast and they're like, well, I don't have the titles, I don't have the degrees, I don't have the expertise. Listen, you don't need all of that. All you need is to get started, because there's somebody out there that's waiting for you to show up. They're waiting to hear your message. They may not get the same message for the person that has all the degrees and certifications and many, many, many years of experience. They may need you. That person is just entering the laboratory. That person that's working as an international scientist. You never know who's waiting on you to say, hey, because Lona showed up, because Aaron showed up, because Christina showed up, now I too can be a medical laboratory professional, because I now know what that is. So show up where you are, show up on podcasts, do audio, do YouTube, do Twitter, whatever it is, just show up and show out and represent for all of the medical laboratory professionals.
And I would say, if you're thinking about starting a podcast, or you thinking about just starting a live, or you thinking about just starting an email, just go ahead and start. So just go ahead and just write it out. Just do it.
And it's good to connect with others who have done it before. Collaboration is so important. Like I said, I did a quick video before, and it's more about getting voices together to elevate our voices, to make it a little louder when you come together with others. And so even doing this together we're stronger. So just reach out to someone else, and if you have an idea, and just, collaborate and get it done. So that was the episode we did. We're just giving you a little snippet, but Taiwana came on again on another episode, and we talked about strategies to get promoted and stand out in the industry. And so can you give us just a few tips, just highlighting, about how you can stand out and get promoted in the lab?
Absolutely. So if I would give you 3 quick tips, I would say make sure you develop your career roadmap. Know where it is that you want to go 3 years from now, 5 years from now. The reason you need your career roadmap is so that you can determine what skills you need, what experience you need, what volunteer opportunities you might need on your path, what professionals you need in your network, what mentors you might need. And so that way you're able to work backwards. So I knew coming into the industry that I wanted to be, I wanted to be the CEO. I wanted to be the CEO of the hospital. And I'm like, what do I need to do to get there? I knew I needed to have some finance skills. I knew I needed to have some nursing friends, because I don't know what nursing people do. So I needed to have that background. I knew I needed to have some advocates and allies in the workplace. I knew I needed a master's degree and years of experience of work. So that way I was able to make strategic moves. Sometimes we make moves to get an extra 50 cents on the hour, an extra $1 on the hour. Lateral moves are good, but is it serving its purpose to get you to your end goal? So figure out your career roadmap. Play up your transferable skills. Most time when people interview, they just think about the skills they have acquired in the workplace. What about those opportunities you have done in your volunteer opportunities? Have you served as a treasurer? Have you served as a secretary? Have you led any projects? Have you been on any boards? All of those transferable skills and opportunities are relevant for you to be able to position yourself for promotion. The last thing I would leave you with is invest in continuous learning. If you are not learning, you are not growing. And it's hard for you to be a leader of other people if you are standing still. Everything I tell people to do are things that I'm doing. I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm investing in mentorship, I'm investing in coaching, I'm going to conferences. Those are the things that you have to do if you are trying to position yourself to move into a promotion, to move up the career ladder, to be the CEO of a hospital, or whatever it is that you are trying to do. And when you are in the room, such as rooms like this room is full of wisdom. Take advantage of the opportunity. So be in the room, ask those questions, network with people that are in the room. Don't just be in the room, but be in the room and actually absorb, get information. If you're a part of ASCP, ASCLS, CLMA, AACC, any of them, ACHE, any of these professional societies, don't just be a member, be an involved member. Participate, get active. That's the way you position yourself to stand out for that candidate. If you're on LinkedIn, don't just be on LinkedIn. Are you active on LinkedIn? Is your profile active? I do executive search, so I can tell you, I get on here and look for people, and can you be found? So if you are trying to be promoted, make it easy to be found. So those would be the things that I would give somebody who is trying to get promoted.
Thanks, Taiwana. Taiwana always preach that you're like, at the end of it, you're like, you better say amen. I'm passionate
passionate about this. I'm passionate about building the next generation of leaders, and I want people in the room and really working the room. So it's wisdom in the room. Soak it up.
As always, I'm taking notes when Tolana's talking.
Yes, and I had Stephanie on, and Stephanie, I always say, Stephanie is that action person. She gets things done. And her talk was from excuses to execution. How can you turn excuses into execution? And that's why we have that hashtag pickle juice that came out of that episode. And so Stephanie gave us a few pointers how we can actually change excuses to execution or action.
Well, we were going to change it to hashtag LinkedIn Church. Pass a collection plate after we hear the sermon from Pastor Taiwan. Everybody feels blessed now. Thank you, Jesus. Yes, my LinkedIn talk with Lona, I think, was so special. We got so many gems out of it. If you haven't caught the hashtag pickle juice, jump onto the bandwagon, and it's just a refresher, just a reminder. Just like Angela said, do you have that lead tech that has a bad attitude, that every time you walk up to them, they look like they just drank some pickle juice? You know, their face just looks sour. They look, disengaged, dissatisfied with life and everything going on in their life and everything going on in your life. And that is not the type of person we want to be in our work environment. When we leave, we want people to miss us. When we are there, we want people to feel like they are gaining something from us. My mission in every job that I've ever been at is I want you to miss me when I'm gone. If I turn in my resignation, I want you to be sad. I want you to feel like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Stephanie is leaving, because that means I'm making an impact every single day. I don't want people to throw a party with pickle juice and pickles there as the theme of my going away. You want to leave an impact everywhere you're going. And sometimes when we make excuses, we sit around and we talk about all the things that we don't have and all the things that we're lacking and all the things wrong in our culture, it's because, one, maybe we're fearful. We feel like we don't have the resources that we need, or maybe we just feel like we don't have the power to change our own situation. But one thing that I would leave the audience with, again, is to remember that you are in control of every day. You're in control of your destiny. And if there's something that you don't like, you're in control of changing that. You're in control of showing up. You're in control of doing all the things that all of your great guests have mentioned, basically implementing all those things and making a change for the better in your environment, and taking all the things that happen as a lesson learned and executing them into something powerful that you can use to change either the laboratory medicine profession, either your personal life, or even your own career.
Thanks so much, Chris. Now I'm so confused, Stephanie. So there's, I love solutions, and Stephanie always come up with solutions. We can bemoan all the different challenges we have with staffing and, stress and everything. But if we don't have solutions, then, it's like we're pickle juice, So I love solutions. I'm trying to decide whether I should go with Justin or Angela, because I know that we have some solution people that I want to go for last. So Justin gave us some good alternatives to doing the same thing over and over again, depending on whether or not you have either the aptitude or the skill set for this. So we talked about medical lab professional moving into field-based role. And Justin, just for today, can you highlight some of the skills that a medical lab professional who would want to move into the role of application specialist, what are some of the skills that would be a good fit?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to outline a couple things that I think about and the pointers that I would give to somebody who's looking at what I sometimes consider a diagonal move for laboratory professionals. It's not quite horizontal because we are changing very much the way we work, but it is also moving up. Like from the bench, there is definitely an aspect of understanding higher levels of laboratory operations and working with other stakeholders in hospitals and clinical areas. So I also want to give a quick shout out to y'all for putting together that podcast as well. I definitely follow Elaborate, and I get so pumped up every time I listen to it. And it's absolutely a great way to collaborate, as someone had mentioned too. And something else that had popped into my mind as you were talking about studying yourself out, I remember having a professor who told me, you know, a lot, scientists don't like to hear this, but it's not what you know, it's who you know. And we always throw our hands up like, oh, I worked so much for this credentials and I put so much time into the continuing education. How can you tell me that my resume doesn't stand for itself? But the reality is that working with people and having that interpersonal connection, and some of the things that Stephanie had mentioned about like the impact that we make with people, you know, I can teach somebody how to be an application specialist. I can't teach them to want to care and come to work every day. But one of the things that when I'm looking and somebody asks me, you know, how did you get into your role and what really drove you to that? There's three things that I think about as far as personality traits that make for somebody who would be a good application specialist. And by that, I mean someone, not necessarily the engineer that's coming in, changing out some parts and doing the PMs on our instruments when things necessarily break, rather than when we're implementing new testing methods and new instrumentation, we need to do for certain validation studies and ensure quality of care for our patients. And also we're doing end user training and also learning how to use this new technology and how we're going to implement it in our practice. And that's what's really fun for me. And I find that in this kind of role, because it's a lot of it's very autonomous. I have never actually met my manager in person, much like you, Lona, Stephanie, and Taiwan have never met in person. I've never met my manager only through, you know, Zoom and things like this. But so there's a lot of that self-sufficiency that goes into it. There's a lot of flexibility in scheduling that happens, especially right now with changing flight plans and everything. Those are things that I just build into my everyday schedule. I have a plan A, I have a plan B, and maybe even a plan C in mind. There's also that aspect of that interpersonal connection. We are working with people on a daily basis, and being part of a technical support team, a lot of times there's a question or a complaint that comes in. So we're often working with people when they're having some issues or trying to find some solutions to the problem that they're having in their laboratory. And then the other part of it too is I think there's a certain aspect of resilience that comes in being able to go through and being ready for when things are not going quite right, and being able to think about external solutions and other ways of thinking about it to try to really sit and problem solve what's going on. So those are the things that I often think about when it comes to what makes for a good application specialist, someone who's technically data driven, who likes working with software, and someone who enjoys working with people. And maybe you're like me, that I knew that I love laboratory medicine and I like being in the laboratory, but I also like the diversity and the variety of going places and being with other people. And I've had the privilege of going to some places across the United States that I wouldn't have otherwise had the opportunity or necessarily a reason to go. But I've seen some really wonderful corners of the country and worked with some really amazing people. And I'm so thankful for having chosen this particular path for myself. And I really like that, you know, being an advocate, to say that our career ladder doesn't just end in the laboratory at a lab director or a lab manager, that there's a wide breadth of where even our technical skills can be applied. Sometimes it's just a matter of thinking, well, how do I want to use these skills? And so that's where I think, and it's really has shown too, that a lot of vendors and other industry partners, once they've really seen what a medical laboratory technologist or a medical laboratory scientist can do, they start to say, hey, are there more of you? Because you do a really great job and you really understand what's going on with our clients and the laboratories that we're working with. So, you know, for me, that's what I would offer, you know, things to think about. If you're doing that self-reflection of what kind of qualities do I have and where could I apply them? That's something that I would say for an application specialist. And if that's something that you're interested in, there are ways to get involved with projects and other things in your current scenario that can help you test those waters. So if you have a new instrument validation or bringing on some new testing on some current instrumentation, or if there's a training session that they're having and the vendors coming in, those are really great opportunities to try and to get a chance to interact with the people who of a role that you might be thinking of doing. And certainly I would also offer to really take a look in understanding what it means to really set out that travel. And I know Sean and I have actually connected on this too, and I really appreciate spending some time and talking with recruiters about this, because I do think that, understanding what 50% or 75% or 80% travel really looks like. And if you're someone, and I've done the gamut of, the Los Angeles area, where most of my territory was what we call windshield time and a lot of driving. And I spent a lot of time listening to podcasts doing that, to now I cover the entire United States. And so that's very different. And for different people might have different interests in that way. And so I would take some time to get involved with some of those projects of learning, the QC trends, or a lot-to-lot conversion, or method validation. New instrument installs. Those are great opportunities to get involved in with a project where there's applications. And then also start asking while you're there, so what's it like to travel? And really you can get some one-on-one information from people, because I can tell you that I've had some really great times in places that I've gone to. I was just in Indianapolis and had a wonderful week with a team with LabCorp. But I've also had some really tough weeks where, it can be sometimes 14 hours a day when we're having just a really big validation. But there's a certain balance that comes with that too. You might not be able to tell that I'm in my home office right now. So when the times that I'm not at home, I do get the chance to sit down, enjoy the comfort of my own home, and keep in contact with all of the laboratories and the people that I work with, and just keep an idea. Hey, how you doing? A lot of care calls, and I love getting the chance to connect with everyone that way and be on the phone with people. It really means a lot to me, and I feel that my work is valuable and meaningful every day.
Thanks so much, Justin. Yeah, so anyone listening, that's a really great, a lot of the challenges that people may see as challenges, other people may see this. I love that. I love to travel. Some people may not. So it's like you're attracting some people and repelling some people when you tell them the whole story. And the fact that it's so important to have people skills. Thank you so much.
So I'm sorry for those that are looking to keep into the retention in the laboratory. It might sound like I'm trying to yank them out. What I'd rather do is really just help at guiding people into deciding where they can take their laboratory career. And I would say, if you're ever thinking about ever going back, being a technical specialist or going into a supervisory role, this is another way of really gaining some of those skills too.
Thank you so much. Someone is echoing all of a sudden. I'm not sure. Okay, so let's jump to Angela. We don't have a lot of time left. And so I'm going to ask Angela when we had Angela on, we talked about licensure, unions, and certification. Angela's talk was really maybe one on YouTube, well viewed, compared to a lot of the others on YouTube, it was like 200 and something views compared. There's another one that did Global Impact, Emmanuel, from Nigeria, that had a high view. So I think a lot of times when there's a subject, especially when there's some kind of controversy around it, but Angela did such a great job explaining the importance of licensure that even people who were not receptive to it really started understanding how important it is. So I'm just going to ask you in a quick, concise way, because we're way over time, talk about Angela didn't just talk about one thing. She spoke about attract, recruit, and retain as a solution. And I know a lot of people are just focused on either recruiting or, other aspect. And for Angela, she spoke about attract, recruit, and retain. So Angela, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure, Lona. Again, very happy to be here with everyone, all our colleagues. This is a great way networking and collaboration. And basically what everyone's been saying, we're behind the scenes laboratory heroes of healthcare, but we need to get to the forefront, and we need to have a place at that table, and we need to have a voice. And what's very important is we've been having a shortage before the pandemic. It's just been exacerbated now with the pandemic. We need to attract from the high school. We need to do more, as we are doing more, but even spread it on social media, in public relations. And I tell everyone the membership needs to be increased. Nurses have almost 95, 99% membership in professional societies. We only have about 50%. So when anyone says, what does professional societies do for me? Or this field is going nowhere, and they get very negative. Negative is a virus in itself. Negative is a cancer in itself. You need to have constructive feedback and be part of the solution. The way to be part of the solution is help us attract. There's health fairs, there's high school fairs, there's college where you can help to transfer somebody who has a BS bio, transfer credits to get them into clinical laboratory science. Again, on social media, I hear complaints that there's a new show out and they at least mention the lab, but the guy is terrible. I said, well, he should be a good looking, excellent, intelligent character. Did you write to the company? Did you write to the paper? Did you write to the media? Everyone can do a part. I always say one individual can make a difference, but a group of individuals together can make all the difference in the world. And it has to be where we are a force to be reckoned with. And you have to be part of the solution and not continue to be part of the problem. So yes, I believe in attracting at the high school level, attracting in the college level. And you do that with all of our fairs that we have, and mentoring and shadow. We did shadow programs where someone thought, maybe I'd like to be a lab tech. I don't know. We shadow them in the lab. And then we also need, of course, once we recruit them, to retain them. And retaining them, the most important thing, which I'm seeing in many areas, but not enough areas, is to give a resourceful, supportive environment with compensation commensurate with your education and skills. And I know that, we have a passion for our field that we need everyone to have in order to help this career, that's such a dynamic career, go even further. I walk on the beach once a week. I do my boardwalk walk. I stop off at the places to eat, not just to have fish tacos. And I stop off at the gift shops, not just to buy something. I talk to these college kids and high school kids. What are you doing with your career? What are you interested in? And people might think it's nonsense. My husband always has to deal with listening to the story over and over again. But you know how many kids we've attracted into the laboratory medical field? Somebody from 7-Eleven is now a supervisor in hematology. Somebody we saw as a waitress is now is a medical technologist thinking of going to medical school. So there's so much everyone can do to attract and recruit, and then within the hospital to retain the most qualified. We don't want to lose standards. We want to get more of us that are qualified in the laboratory. And it's so important.
Thank you so much. So for those who haven't had a chance to either watch any of these episodes, you can catch it on YouTube at Lona at LabOPEX Leader on YouTube, but I'll share the link. And Angie had so many views on YouTube for her episode. So Dana and Aaron, I know Dana was early and she's like, the first shall be the last and the last shall be the first. So Dana and Aaron spoke about the value of engaging in professional societies, and that's a really important solution to some of the challenges. And of course, it has a lot to do with collaboration and other things that Dana and Aaron will talk about. So what are some of the benefits of being involved in professional society?
There's so many, but thank you first and foremost for having us. So I don't even know where to begin, but I'll say, there's no collaboration without the lab. We put the lab in collaboration, and where, so many people have already discussed, I think you get a sense of community when you join professional organizations. And if that's something that you're feeling is absent in your work environment, are not in your culture, you could definitely find that in a professional organization where there's like-minded people with similar interests, similar passions, similar vision for what they want to do in their career. And you can definitely find other people who are in that same space with you through professional societies, and you're able to bring that experience back into your work environment. And so, you're learning about things that are going on in other places and other spaces, other parts of the country, other parts of the world by your networking and interactions with these other individuals. And you could bring so much back to where you are or where you work. And in addition to that, if you're not able to obtain a certain skill, like you may not be in lab ops or in laboratory leadership in your current work situation. However, you want that skill set of working with finances or being a leader, being a chair of a committee or chair of a council. You could get that skill set in other ways through your engagement in professional organizations. If you're having a hard time finding your voice, being a part of professional societies helps you find that voice, helps you come up with that script or that wording of things you need to say or want to say when you get back into your work environment and want to truly advocate for the profession. Especially, it's so easy to get fired up when you're around other people, such as the ones on the screen and those who were on earlier. You get around that, you go back to work, you're ready. You're ready to advocate for visibility, advocate for your colleagues, bring positivity, good vibes into your workspace because you've come out of these meetings or these encounters through that professional society engagement. But those are just a few things that I could think of right away that are truly a benefit in becoming plugged in, I would say, and getting more engaged. I'm sure Aaron can add so much more to that.
Yes. Thanks for all the work you've been doing. Aaron?
Yeah, I would echo what Dana's saying, what Taiwan is saying. You have a sense of community. I know if I'm having a rough day or I need more energy, I can reach out to Taiwan, I can reach out to Dana, and we can just, even if it's just going back and forth with gifts or memes or just joking around, it gives you that extra little bit to kind of get you through the day sometimes. And it's a network that I never would have had. I'm in Jacksonville, Florida, Dana's across the country. It's the amazing connections you make. You build those professional skills. You get to work on presenting, interviewing skills. If you're serving on a committee where you're trying to select different members, those are the skills that you can use to kind of further build your professional toolbox up a little bit more, which is always pretty helpful. It's life-changing. And these are things you're already paying for with these memberships. So take advantage of the AACP membership or the AACLS membership. There's opportunities everywhere. Even with social media, with AACP and AACLS, I do a series of case studies online. And without the connections I would have made through these groups, they've kind of helped keep me going and added to things I've done. So it's just a great sense of community and networking. So it's amazing.
Awesome. I'm glad that hopefully for people who are thinking about it, especially, I think I love the whole idea of developing certain skill set that you probably wouldn't have had in your workplace. So you're preparing and building a resume even to get promotion, because you learn that when you volunteer and you're getting involved, and that networking piece of helping each other is really awesome.
And it gives you a seat at the table actually too. So if you're part of CLSI, they're a group that helps decide what the clinical breakpoints are for antibiotics. So you can actually be at the table. And I forgot who it is, Dana, but she always says, if there isn't a seat there, bring your own chair.
Shirley Chisholm.
Yep.
Bring your folding chair.
It brings you able to bring your own folding chair, and you can make impacts on your profession that you can make outside of your community and that impact your community directly.
Sounds good. And for people who haven't had a chance, for all of us who are watching, please share this out, because there's just so much gem that others can benefit from. especially, joining professional societies. A lot of people don't know, they complain about ACP not doing this or ACLS not doing this, but being there, having your own chair at the table, bringing your own holding chair.
And that's my biggest thing, Lona. We can sit back and complain about who's not doing what, but if you're not lending your voice, your work, your contributions, then, just channel your frustration by being a part of the work.
Be part of the solution, right?
Be part of the solution. And
I always tell them, check the websites. Every time they say, what does ASCP do for me? What does ACLS do? Check the websites. And I give them the rundown. And I tell them, if you don't want to join a professional society, you're not happy with, join another one, but join something and be part of it, not just complaining and venting about it.
Be part of the change you want to see.
Yes, it is so much more than just continuing education credits.
Correct.
I owe so much of my professional development to organizations like ASCLS and ASCP.
Great. Thanks so much for those testimonies. And now we have Sean. Sean was our first guest. So Sean is going to be, the first will be last, apparently. But when we had Sean, of course, everywhere everybody we talk to about challenges, right now they're talking about staffing. And so Sean is here. Sean has a unique position in the lab. And so I'm not going to say what it is. He's in recruiting, but I want him to also show how he differentiates himself as a recruiter. And he's going to just give us a few suggestions in terms of solutions. Maybe a lot of those some people already said, solutions that he can suggest for challenges we are currently facing with short staffing. So Sean, and maybe there's some of it you're going to say kudos to either Letitia or maybe Angela or somebody else. But tell us a little bit about what you do, because you're kind of that go-to person that everybody needs to know about, and what it is that differentiates you from other recruiters.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Lona. And thanks for everyone who stuck around to the end. But yeah, Angie's made great points. I had all this list of things to say, but I'm like, they said it. Rollins too. Angela too. So I guess the most important thing I could probably provide to everyone briefly is my perspective from the outside, actually doing the recruiting and not being in the lab. So one of the things I learned, and this is the strategy that I use for my company, is that, by the time someone decides they want to apply somewhere else and they put their applications out and they apply their resumes, that's a really hard person to recruit, because they get 4 or 5 offers in a week, and hospitals give offers that expire at certain times. So what I like to do, and I think labs should do this as well, is how can I get to that candidate before they want to apply? Because then there's less competition. And so Angie mentioned it before, but asking your employees in the lab for referrals. I don't think offering referral bonuses is a good idea, because that kind of makes it about the money, and it shouldn't be. But that's a good idea. Also, what else did I have written down here? Social media. Wow, I've seen some lab managers just like post, "Hey, we love working here. Here's Lab Week." That's a great way to start touching people and get them interested in your lab. And then finally, just be proactive. What I do 90% of the day is calling up people and messaging them, "Hey, what would you be interested in the future? What do you want to do?" And that way I can find an opportunity before they're ready to leave. And then just as far as, what I do and differentiates me, for me, I'm probably the only one in this group that doesn't have a lab background, but I just saw the challenges labs have. If they're short staffed, they have to use temporary workers, and that's a revolving circle. And then other workers within the lab get stressed out because of that. So for me, I just try to help labs by finding permanent people, and I try to leverage social media to do it. And it's been working. So yeah, everyone said so many things, so I don't want to repeat anything and be brief, but yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks so much, Sean. And I think, Sean's company is What's the name of your company? Specific for labs, right?
Yeah, so it's called Intro, and then specifically tailored towards medical laboratory scientists and the laboratory recruitment.
Right. So he's not one of the general recruiters out there. He actually worked directly with lab by providing permanent placements for lab. So make sure you connect with Sean.
Thanks, Lona.
Hiring manager. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. I think we went over probably a half an hour almost. Thank you for hanging in there to share your passion, to share with our community of medical lab professionals. Hopefully we're setting a model for others to follow to bring visibility to our profession. This is just the beginning, and hopefully as a group we can collaborate to move further on with other ideas to bring visibility to our profession and bring solutions to some of the challenges that we're having. Thank you all. Thanks so much to our audience for all the engagement. Wow, it's like so much. We probably can't share right now, but we will be responding to a lot of those comments that's in the audience. Thanks so much for hanging in there to the end, and thanks so much to you, our guests. Thank you. Have a great night.
See you, Lona.